When and how did you nurture the skill of storytelling?
Honestly, I got that from video games. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm one of the biggest video game fanatics there is. I probably do at minimum 40 hours a week. I'm dead ass serious. It's not a joke. I play games all the time, right? I don't even know how I fit it in, right? Because I am always on games. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I'm a creator, right? I write stories nonstop. So if I don't have constant inspiration from, right, that you get burnt out really quick. So, it's something that's always been a passion for me. One day I'll go hardcore into games, right, making them myself. That's what I initially wanted to do with Black Sands, right? But for now, man, I get heavy influence from video games. That's why I can make these like stories that have a lot of branching or like storylines and different characters who are lovable. It's the idea of that, you need marketable pieces, right? You need people in the stories that people actually care about, right? Even the villains have to be likable, right? Or something that you can actually like get behind. And that's what really motivated me. I also do a lot of research in general on like historical stuff because I'm a history buff, big time history buff. And I always look at ways others have failed in telling their stories, right? And figure out how to clean up some holes, some loose ends that they might have had in their stories and make a more compelling version,
I have two questions I want to add. One, how do you create a duality in a character where you dislike them but you love them?
If it's like what?
How do you create a duality in a character where you dislike them but you also love them and have compassion for them?
Okay, yeah. So I think that kind of goes with like the idea that they're relatable, right? So you could dislike what somebody does, but at the same time, feel like they're honorable, right? So the villain, right? The villain could clearly be trying to destroy, right, the entire nation of what's it called. But if they have some kind of like honor system or something like that, something that you can clearly see why they're doing it, or if they have a really good origin. Let's say somebody really got screwed over in their past, right? And you can relate to something like that. Do you really care if they're doing bad things today? If you could kind of been like, if I wasn't crazy, he said, if I was crazy, I probably would have did that too, right? You probably would have leaned that way as well. That's why a lot of people love Killmonger, right? It's a lot of people like Thanos, right? It's because it's the origin story of those characters, right? It's the background story of those characters that got them to the point where they are today. And now you don't feel too bad about why they're doing the things they're doing. You don't agree with it. You would never do it, but you don't hold it over them like, man, these just evil, irredeemable people,
Thank you so much. And the second question I have is that give me an example of someone telling their historical story or a history of their country, nation, whatever, where you feel they kind of dropped the ball. They could have did a better job. Take your time.
This was hard, right? Because there's not much in this field, right? It's not much, especially in African history, right? So, I would have to say, and I'm gonna go a little bit broader because white people know how to tell their history. they know how to make their histories amazing, right? Way better than it was. But I would say like, there's a lot of films. There were films, stories, documentaries about native cultures and stuff like that. And I've never seen anything about, the Inca, which is wild to me because they were easily the most advanced culture of all of any native like people. Like they had hundreds of thousands of soldiers on a whim, right? They were metal workers. They had all metal weapons and armor, and the culture was crazy. And they still allow us to see people in loincloths and spears, right? Loincloths and bow and arrows, and that's it. And you're like, these cats weren't like that, man. Wish you would try to talk to an Inca that way, And I feel like that was lost in the sauce. Like we still try to tell stories about a couple of Apaches or whatever, but we're not really focusing on the biggest civilization there was, right? And how they really wrecked us for a minute. And I mean us as in like the West in general, right? Portuguese got their asses handed to them by the Inca for a while, and they had to get a whole bunch of other people who were rivals to them in order to even like oppose them at all, because they were handling themselves pretty well. So yeah, that's one of the things I feel like that was done, and there's some other ones as well. But for the most part, you know, we don't really have the power of the purse, so we can't tell our greatest stories. They only want to tell the stories that are at our lowest points, and I feel like that's something that we can do ourselves. You don't need $100 million to make a movie about Mansa Musa. You need like 5 million maybe. And you tell me you can't crowdfund that? I will eventually. Right? When you tell me you can't crowdfund something like that, of course you can, you know?
Well, let me hear you say mountain.